This screen chomp continues from the verb groupings conversation to be able to put a plain form verb into a mas form. So let's begin. If you're looking at the groupings once again, group 3, irregularity, are kuru and suru. There's no particular kind of method for doing this. It's just kind of a straightforward memorization that you have to do to be able to get this into its mas form. So the verb kuru simply moves to kimasu. Kuru becomes kimasu. Suru, in a similar fashion, with the ku becoming a ki in the mas form, this time the su becomes a shi. Now the good news is these verbs are incredibly commonly said, so they're very much a part of your memory. Kuru kimasu, suru shimasu. For example, benkyou shimasu, renshu shimasu, ojama shimasu. So those verbs you just have to kind of memorize. Group 2, I often refer to as the Velcro verbs. The reason why is because they're technically called ichidan doshi in Japanese. Ichidan meaning one step. Because really, you just think of it as a one-step process. If you recall from the last screen chomp, all of the group 2 verbs end in an iru or eru sound. So a common verb you might meet, that's group 2, is the verb to eat, taberu. So again, what are you hearing? It sounds there. You got eru as an ending sound from taberu, so that's an indicator that it's going to be a group 2 verb. Now, how do you deal with the group 2 verb? It's very straightforward. You just isolate the final sound, that final ru that you have at the end here, and you get rid of it. You just literally take it away. And in its place, you add the mas. So taberu is tabemasu, and that works for every single group 2 verb. You might have another verb that I'll put on here is abiru. You should be listening for the sound at the end. Iru from abiru. Again, what do you do? Isolate the final sound at the end, the ru, remove it, and add mas in its place. So abiru becomes abimasu. It's that simple for group 2. Now with group 1, it's not particularly hard, but you do have to understand, again in Japanese they refer to them as godan doshi, go meaning 5, so it's a 5-step verb. So you might have a verb such as au. If this is your plain form here, the final hiragana at the end of this is the one that you have to understand the 5 steps that surround it, and they come from the hiragana row that you learned when you learned the hiragana, whatever surrounds that sound. So if this is an u, the 5 hiragana that surround it would be an a, an i, an u, e, and an o. Those are the 5 steps. And to get to a mas form, you're going to actually convert that u ending that we just mentioned, right? This u ending. We're going to convert that to the step up. So it's almost like you kind of go up the elevator 1 step. So instead of au, go up 1 step to the e before you add a mas. So taking away all the other stuff, the verb actually becomes aimasu. Aimasu. At this point, the other 4 steps, that a and the e and the o that we wrote in there, those don't have anything to do with the mas form. They come into play later when we learn other forms. But you simply put 1 step up from the u to the e ending hiragana, just as we did right here, and then add mas to that once you've changed it. Let's give you another example of what that would look like for group 1. By the way, that verb is to meet. If you take the verb hanasu, hanasu is the verb to speak, like I speak Japanese. So we isolate the final sound, find its neighbors, just to understand the process of these 5 steps. Sashi, su, se, so. You're going to move it up a step from hanasu, up 1 step to the shi, before you add the mas. So your verb becomes hanashimasu. So we can remove all these other things, just leaving the shi. Hanashimasu. I'd like you to think about one while I write it on here and see if you can follow the process. If the verb itself is yomu, yomu is the verb to read. So what do? You move it up 1 step to its neighbor, which if you're thinking through that, it's going to be E ending sound. There's your mi above the mu from ma, mi, mu, me, mo, and add your mas. You're left with yomimasu. From yomu to yomimasu. So it's not a very hard thing to do, you just got to remember to move 1 step up. And that is your mas form conjugations. Now, I did mention in the last screenshot, and I think this might be the place to mention, that there are those group 1 verbs kind of in disguise. They sound like group 2 verbs. I'm going to put a few of these here just so you can see them written and know that they're around. One very common one is the verb hairu, which is to enter. So it looks like it's a group 2 because it ends in iru, that sound, and in fact the hiragana. But it is actually a group 1 verb, so to get to a mas form, you would move the ru up 1 step to the ri, and you'd pronounce it hairimasu. Another very common group 1 in disguise is shiru, to know. So it has the same process. So instead of taking off the ru like you do for group 2, you have to go up a step just like we did with hairu to this came shiri, shirimasu, shirimasu. You also have kaeru. Kaeru as a group 1 verb is to return to a place. Returning to a place. So again, the ru goes up 1 step to the ri, making it kaerimasu. Those are 3 very common ones. There are a few more, but that'll do for now.